put some validation into a form. This is still a fairly simple form, just two inputs. Um, and now I think I've got enough time to show you what's really cool about React Final Form, and that's the ability to manage um, which field. Uh, to, it's the ability to control when your fields and entire form get rendered. So I've got this. I've got this thing called render count that gives us a visualization of when things are rendering. Okay, so I all that this does is print out how many times it has been rendered. So if we put some of these in our code, too. Now, so this little circle up at the top is how many times the form has rendered, and there's one for each field, and this thing shows us how many times this values output has been rendered. Okay. So watch what happens when I interact with the form. So every key press, every time I focus or blur a field, it's re-rendering the entire form and all of the fields. And on a form this size, that doesn't matter. All the browsers and devices are going to be fast enough to handle small forms. But I do have users of my form libraries that tell me that they have forms with 200 or 300 inputs. And when you get up that high, things can start to slow down. So let's look at how we can manage this. Each sort of like with if you're familiar with GraphQL, where you can specify exactly which bits of data you want to be loaded. There's a React Final Forms has a subscription prop here, and this is a an object of booleans where you tell it exactly which bits of form state you care about. Um, so here we're using values. Oftentimes in these demos, I'll use submitting too, so we can add that right quick. And that's a nice thing you can do, like to disable your submit button. Okay, so we're subscribing to submitting and values. And then for our field, we can do the same thing, subscription. And here, the parts of field state that we care about are error and touched. And although it's hidden in this input here, the value we need to obviously re-render for. So true, error, true. So now with this, and paste it into our last name too. Okay, so now our fields are only going to render when this with any bit of this changes their value or their error or their touched. So, but when we type in here, see by focusing on it, nothing re-renders because we're not worried. We don't care about the active value. And when I blur, touch is going to become true on this field, so it's going to re-render, but nothing else will. Okay. But as I type in here, watch what happens. Well, we're back to every single field and the whole form re-rendering every time as we're typing, uh, and that's because we're printing out our values down here, right? So to print this out, keep it up to date, we have for sure we have to re-render the whole form. But there is a solution, and that is the third and final component. That's called form spy. And what form spy does, so we have to, we can't subscribe to values in our form, right? But then we don't have, so this is working pretty well, but we don't have our values down here. Get our values with form spy because form spy sort of digs into the form state in in form and can provide you any little bit of form state that you care about. We can put a form spy here, subscription, and we can say we care about values, and it's going to give us a render prop with our form state values, and wrap this whole thing, and now we have our values again. So now when I type into the form field, to the form, nothing is re-rendered, and as I'm typing, only the exact field that I'm messing with is re-rendering. This thing also has a way to re-render, and we haven't re-rendered the whole form at all. That will happen when we hit submitting because we're subscribed to submitting. Down the submit button grays out, and we've submitted our form. So this is, again, I stressed, this is not that important for small forms, but if your forms do get large, having this fine-grained control over your rendering is can be very helpful. I think that might be all the time we have. Patrick? Uh, I could, but this is the main gist of what I wanted to get across. We can our render counts to clean up our form. So, to there are other more complicated, obviously, scenarios with like arrays of fields and things like that that are all handled. The final form, React final form docs page has many examples. There's over 40 examples of how to do different things with React final form. Like maybe you want a warning that is like an error but doesn't block submission, or maybe you want to have some sort of math that's happening between the fields, or wizard form is a popular requirement that people have. Auto save, things like that. So I highly recommend that you check out this page to see all the different possible examples.
Okay. I also saw on your Twitter about form generation.
There is a
demo online.
Yeah, there's a demo online. Is that under generator? It is the top tweet here. It's my pinned tweet at Erik Rass, and it's posted somewhere that has to spin up apparently, but it does. I thought it worked. Well, I will make sure that that is up later today.
Okay.
But the
I think on your Twitter there is an animation GIF.
Yeah, let me pull that up. So it's all, and this is just like what we just built, except that the output of this form is creating this schema here. This is just like how we printed out our values, and then this side over here is consuming this schema, just like looping through it to
Mm.
output another form over here. Um,
Yeah, that's cool.
it's a thing that is possible when you're using controlled inputs and you've got uh, and with the declarative nature of React, it's the values that this form is generating can be consumed over here in real time, which is pretty neat. So here, like this was a checklist uh, with check boxes, and I switched it to an option list with radio buttons. So
Nice.
that the code for this is on GitHub. When I get the site back up, it'll link to it.
Okay. And I also saw that you are launching a service, Form Nerd. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yes, I would love to tell you a little bit about Form Nerd. Form Nerd is the answer to the question of how people use your forms. Oops. So um, it tells you it tracks how many people start your form and versus submit, uh, which is your conversion rate. So when you make a change to your form to make it more friendly, you can you can see if that changes your conversion rate. And also, there are a bunch of different there are a bunch of different analytics for the fields. Let me I guess, do I have an example I can show you live, not somebody else's data? Uh, not really, but there's over 20 different metrics of like time spent, or how long it takes to arrive in a field, how many keys are pressed in a field, things like that. So it allows you to get a feel for how people are using your form, and you can find bottlenecks or problems where people drop out of your form because something about it is too difficult. Um, and it's it's totally none of your form's values are transmitted to form nerd. It's only the behaviors of blurring and typing. So you can use it on the most sensitive information that that you have, and it's totally safe. And it's coming out soon. Uh, Second quarter 2020 is my goal, but we'll see. It's currently in there's some in private beta. There's some people using it for beta testing. It is going pretty well, but we've found some things that I'm glad I did the private beta.
Nice. And does it plug into Final Form, or does it work with any kind of forms?
It works with any kind of form. It does it what you do is uh, when you sign up and you create a form, it do this. It You put a script tag in your page, and then you put a unique ID um, on your form. And that's all you have to do. And it just uses JavaScript to look at to watch your inputs. So it doesn't have to be a React site. It can be any form, literally on the web.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
Okay, then I think we're done for today. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you. This has been fun. I hope viewers have learned something.
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks everyone, and see you soon, Eric.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.